Hello, I am back with yet another video. I believe this dream is it's not actually a dream. It came about when I was driving on the way to the park. Just wanted to take a walk, things like that. Sorry, I keep shaking the table. So, this came about, it was May 23rd, and we're just gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna be reading. Originally, when what I would like to call a vision came to mind, I had recorded it, so I had to type it up because I just this right here is just so dreamy in a sense. I had to get every detail. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So again, I was driving. I'm reading now. I was driving to the park when this vision came, and it was a beautiful day outside. Um, of course, on the day that I was driving, but according to the vision, in the vision, it was beautiful that day. So, the grass was to perfection, and it was a beautiful, rich green, and the wind was blowing, and it was like a nice, cool breeze. And the sky was a perfect shade of light blue, and the sun was just shining through the clouds, and I can see I looked at the grass again. It's about to be another thunderstorm. It's storming. Just storming. Let me fix this. I'm sorry. Let me let this focus in real quick. I think I need to get closer. But yeah, these storms been coming. But anyway, so I looked at the grass and again, and I noticed that it was alive. And I'm not talking about dirt mixed with water, mixed with sunlight, and the grass gets its nutrients and stays healthy. Like, no, the grass was alive. It was literally alive. And the wind blew. When the wind blew, and the grass blew with it. Not because the wind blew, but because the grass was in unison. They were in sync with each other. And so it blew with the wind. And this was a different place, you know. So let's keep that in mind. We were definitely in a different place. And I looked afar off into this field because that's where I was standing, and I saw this woman. And she was so beautiful. Like she had on this white dress, and it kind of reminded me of Cinderella, not this new one, but the older version, the one with Whitney Houston and Brandy in it. That that was the better one for me. I grew up on that one about this new stuff. But let's get back on topic. The dress reminded me of Brandy's dress. Except that it was white and it had sleeves. Like the woman was completely covered, and but the dress had silver on it. It had crystals on it. It was mesh, and it had a pure white silk under the mesh. And it had jewelry material on it, and the jewelry reflected in the sun. And it brought forth beautiful colors, like how the sun shines on a puddle of water, and the water is like a rainbow in the water. So that's what it was when the sun shined on the dress. And so this woman had a crown on her head, and the crown was just completely silver. But when the sun shined on it, it reflected jewels. So it's just imagine just everything on this woman being alive, because that's what it was. So she has on a silver crown, and when the sun shined on it, it reflected jewels on her crown, and the jewels it was rainbow style, had little rainbows in it, and her hair was pinned up in a bun, and the curls were hanging down. And when the sun shined on her hair, the color magnified. Um, like it just grew slightly brighter and more rich. And so the sun made the bride's skin glisten, and the sun made her skin more radiant and rich, and her brown complexion magnified in color as well. She was shoeless. She didn't have on any shoes, and I saw that her feet was connected with the creation of God. So she just sat standing there. So her feet were like her body was just in connection, just like how the Lord made us and put us in this flesh. And the flesh is I guess rights for us to be here. It reminds me of the scripture where the man who was in the tomb, and he was cutting himself, and the demon spoke out of him and said, "Hey, Jesus, you're unlawful. Are you here to punish us before the time?" And you know how Jesus had to come through a suit in order to be lawful in this realm. So it was like that. Um, where was I? Mm, okay, there it is. So, okay, so her feet was connected with the creation of God. So her it was a whole nother type of connection, a lot more greater than what new agers are talking about how, stand when the sun is rising and get connected with the sun. It wasn't like that. It was like a direct connection. She was one with God's creation. Everything was unison there. Okay. Um, okay, so she just stood there and she stared into the skies and the sun remained behind the clouds. But the wind began to blow. And this woman, when the wind began to blow, the breeze was perfect. Like, even though I wasn't in the dream, but I was envisioning this, it's like I was in it, and it's almost like I felt the breeze too, but not physically in my car. But it's like I could just imagine it. And so when the breeze came, she lifted her arms like this and brung her head back and closed her eyes, and she smiled and she just enjoyed the breeze. It's like she just, I guess, basked in it. So let me finish reading. Okay, but so this woman, she lifted her arms, she tilted her head back, she closed her eyes, and she began to enjoy the breeze flowing through her dress. And the breeze started to flow through her hair, and she just basked in it, and she just laid in it. It's like she was savoring the moment, and she was smiling. And when she opened her eyes and looked in the sky, the clouds parted, and the sun began to shine forth on her dress, and her dress began to reflect the light of the sun. Her dress became brighter and brighter, and the colors began to reflect more and more. So, in the beginning of this, I remember saying that she had crystals on her dress. She had little shining material that we get from the fabric store, little teeny teeny balls, and they're plastic. Excuse me. And I also said that she had silver and I'm looking for it. The mesh crystals jewelry. So remember that when the sun shined on her dress and their dress got brighter and brighter, and then the colors, which were multiple rainbow colors, began to reflect and got brighter as the sun rays hit her dress. And her dress, again, as I seen, her dress was alive too. Everything in that world was alive. So hmm, okay, and her colors began to reflect more and more, and she opened her eyes, and looking at the sun, the sun got dimmer in color, but the rays were as bright as they had ever been. So the only thing that changed was the color of the sun. The rays still were bright. Um, the color just went down a shade. So this woman, she looked off into the sun, and all of a sudden, I saw this confused look on her face. And I tried to see what she was looking at, but I couldn't see anything. So, at this point, we're like shoulder to shoulder, but I'm slightly behind her. So it's like diagonal. So when I saw her look and I tried to see what she was looking at and I couldn't see nothing, I began to turn to look at her face so that I can try to pinpoint exactly what she was looking at. And again, I couldn't see anything. So then I asked, I said, "Well, Lord, what is she seeing?" And he said, "Look up again." And I looked up and I smiled, and my spirit inside began to bounce around. Like it was a great trembling, but it was joy. I was that happy. And so I just shouted, "Jesus." And then I looked at the woman, expecting her to be happy with me because I've identified who I was looking at. So, but the Lord allowed me to hear her thoughts at that moment. And she was like, "What is that up there?" Like she just was just in all types of confusion. And then I said it again, I said, "Jesus." And then I looked at her face again, and her face went from confused to shock. And she said, "No." And worry began to cover her face, and she said, "No, no, 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 not yet, not yet, not yet." And she was frantic at this point, and then she fell to her knees and she shouted again, "No, no, 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 not yet." And then it ended. The vision just ended. And so at this point, I'm still on my way to the park, and I was thinking about the vision that God just gave me. And by the time I got to the park, I just parked, put in park a spot, and I sat in my car. And I was thinking who this woman in white was. And while I was pondering on that, like a few moments after, the Lord put it in my heart that that was the bride. And the bride was not ready. I'm sorry, phrase that. The bride is not ready. She's in the field, basking in her beauty, waiting for Jesus unready. She's waiting for Jesus unready. And then it came again. She's waiting for Jesus unready. And then I said in the recording, the poem ends here. Continue with speech about the obliviousness of the church. So I recorded this on May 23rd, but I'm posting it today, June 23rd. And I'm trying to figure out at that moment, why did I use the word palm? So I looked it up and I found two definitions. Um, so, I typed in on Google define palm in the Bible. So the first I came up with was it means representing victory, victory of the spirit over the flesh. But then I got a second um, definition according to Mick Clintock and the Strong Biblical Cyclopedia, and it means the symbol of those conflicts which are carried on between the flesh and the spirit. So this is why after I said some, I put on there continuous speech about the obliviousness of the church. And it's when I think about this vision that has given me, it kind of hit hard when the Lord um got made me to understand that she's basking in her beauty waiting for Jesus unready. And that's what hit hard the most, because majority of the church are worried about all the wrong things. And I guess they have adopted how Jesus wants to be treated, how he wants to be loved, how he wants to be represented, and they package that with their own understanding, and they think that it looks the part that he's asking for, but it's really not. And so it kind of reminds me of if you have a child and you tell the child, hey, clean the kitchen, and the child wants to please you so bad, cleans it to the best of their ability, but it's not according to your standards. And then when you get here, they're so happy and they're like, Mom, look, look, look. I mean, we're talking about a child maybe 5, 6, 7 who's learning. And and you're looking and he was like, oh, you didn't do a very good job. Let me show you, how to get it right. But the key point is the child is excited thinking that they've done all that you required, and they're excited to show you, and they really haven't completed the task. And so when I think about this vision and I see that this bride is looking beautiful and she got it going on apparently, but then when Christ comes back, she's in shock. And I guess this is when the church gets a reality check, but by the time the reality check comes, it's too late because he's already here. It also represents that, and this is pretty obvious, some people will recognize his coming while majority of the people won't. And it makes sense if the world doesn't see it, but when the church doesn't see it, it's something totally different. When there's only a small portion of God's people who will recognize his coming, yeah, we're happy, but the rest of the church is like, no, we're not ready yet. And things just go downhill from there because, when he comes back, there's no do-overs. There's no, hey, could you give us a little bit more time? It's, you're stuck with where you are at that moment. And it's not good, because right now the church is playing dress up, and they're doing it to hide the sin. And it's only the light of Christ that's going to reveal it, wake people up, give people a reality check in the church like, hey, yeah, you look real nice on the outside, but if I came today, would you be ready? Would you truly be prepared? So I'm gonna end it here. I don't want to ramble on, but this is the end of this little speech that I gave. It's not good for the church to be oblivious to what's going on around us. I thought I was done. You don't want to hear certain things. You don't want to know certain things. You just want to go through life vicariously, and you want to be oblivious, and you believe that that's going to save you, and it's not. You think God is going to give you a pass because you were oblivious about something. When the truth is there, don't reject it. I mean, if you don't want to receive it, it's best to just ask the Lord to help you, but don't reject it. You know, it sometimes, especially the things that are going on in this world, is like really, really bad. Ask God to help you to deal with it and help you to process it, but don't reject it because it's only going to hurt you in the end. And that's about it. Convenience, bliss. I'm sorry, convenience, ignorance, and obliviousness is not your friend. We have to face what we're really dealing with and just ask the Lord for help, because you don't want to be in that group that don't recognize his coming. The church will not recognize Jesus when he comes because they're going to be too tied up in image and just vanity. Vanity is greater than just how somebody looks. Vanity is a pretty broad word. But those that are wrapped up in vanity, they will not recognize God when he comes. So just don't be one of those people that are just wrapped up in your own little world, in your own little bubble, and Jesus is just going to love me anyhow, and I don't have to change, and I got saved, and that's all that matters. And don't get wrapped up in that. It's a sad thing that the church won't recognize him when he's here. Just like how the Pharisees did not recognize God in the flesh that was standing there and looking them right in the face. They did not recognize him as he truly is at that time. So that's it for real. I'm gone for real. Hope you take this to prayer and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.